I'm back. Going to talk a bit about identity. Do your own due diligence on this, but identity, when you do your research, etymology, so on and so forth, go through the dictionaries, you come out to identity as sameness of being. Remember, identity is not what you are, it's what you're of. And man, women are of a mom and dad. Children are of a mom and dad, living, breathing men, women. Fictional beings are created by people who work in a fictional realm. And fictional beings, entities have jurisdiction over fictional entities, not physical beings. So there's a physical identity, my face. It could be a picture, it could be my actual face. You could be looking at my face to face. You could see my picture, my face on a driver's license. That's my physical identity. Whereas the information on that driver's license, I'm just using the driver's license as an example, the name and the date of birth, so on and so forth, that's a legal identity. Now, I used to use a lot of seminars, and I would take the Monopoly game with me because I found that to be the easiest way to explain this. If you haven't, anyhow, so you set up the game of Monopoly on the table. We're going to call that the fictional realm, the world of commerce, whatever. That's the game, right? That's all the buying and selling is taking place. You buy properties, railroads, utilities, go to jail, get fined, charges, whatever. It's all there. In order to play that game, so you get the players, the men and women, the physical beings, sitting around the table. And you got the board in front of you. Everyone gets a token to play the game. But while playing that game, the players know that they're not the token. They're not the little men being moved around on the board. And it's the little men being moved around on the board, that those legal identities that are doing the buying and the selling, that are going to jail. You have to pay the fines, the fees, the purchase price. They're the debtors. So when you present it, the birth certificate is evidence of your identity. It's like you said, I'm that little token on the board. And by the way, the Registrar General here in Ontario refers to this as a token. Get it? Token? Or they call it in Monopoly, token. Move token 5 spaces. When I play with people, everybody calls it, well, can you move my man, please? Well, no, it's not the man. The men and the women are sitting around the table, but that's what people call it. But nonetheless, it's a token. This is the token. And when you identify yourself as the token, you present the birth certificate, the token is evidence of your identity. Now you're you're playing yourself. You're the player on the outside of the game, but you're also moving your little token on the game board like it's you. In the game of life I'm talking about here out there. So now you have the sameness of being. You have become that little token on the board, legally speaking. Simply legally speaking. And again, it's that token on the board that is subject to the government jurisdiction, to the rules of the game, so on and so forth, laws, rules, regulations. The game has jurisdiction over the tokens. It sets how the game's played, and do this, and this is what happens. Do that, this is what happens. Don't do this, this is what happens. Do you want it that? This is how much it's going to cost. Blah, 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 blah. Do something wrong, you go to jail. So in that sense, when you've presented this as evidence of your identity, and now it's sameness of being. You are as if that token on the Monopoly board. You are as if that person out there in commerce that's being ruled over, and you're going along for the ride because you've attached yourself to it. You've bonded yourself to it. This is the bonding aspect of it. People think a birth certificate's a bond. It's not a bond, except that you bonded it to yourself. So now you've said, I'm the token on the board. I'm the one being governed, ruled over and regulated. But it's the token on the board. It's this, not this. So when I say a birth certificate is not evidence of your identity, and by the way, people watching this video, if you haven't done so, click on our playlists button at the on our YouTube channel, Reclaiming Your Securities there. Click on the playlist button, then click on the Recision playlist and watch all the videos that are starting from the oldest to the newest. So you have the full context of what I'm talking about here with respect to identity documents, what the birth certificate is and isn't, so on and so forth. If you don't do that, you won't have the full context, what we're talking about here. But keeping along with the Monopoly game analogy, which is very good, very effective, because Monopoly in Canada, there's one owner, Monopoly, and the Monopoly game is one owner. That's why they call it Monopoly. It's called Monopoly. Get it? One owner, which is the sovereign, by the way. In God's kingdom, that's God. He's the sovereign. In legal land, In Canada, the king is the sovereign, and the sovereign makes the law, and lo and behold, in Canada, all the laws are passed in the name of the king, and the king is not subject to those laws because the king is the lawgiver. It's right on their website. The king is not subject to criminal or civil prosecution. Neither is God. God created the law of gravity. God's not subject to the law of gravity. He controls it. He created it, for heaven's sakes. The sovereign is the owner and makes the law with respect to what the owner owns. In God's kingdom, God created everything. God owns everything. Hence, the Bible is the book of the law. It says that over almost 100 times. This is the book of the law. Nothing to do with religion. In Canada, the king is the sovereign in that legal realm. So the king is not subject to laws, rules, regulations. But anyway, back to the monopoly game. So when you have presented this as evidence of your identity, you basically said, I'm the token on the board. And I'm subject to the laws, the rules, the regulations that apply to the game. You've granted jurisdiction over your life, your liberty, your property, including your children, your family, everything. Whereas, had you known it's not evidence of your identity and played it properly, then you could not possibly be, there would be no sameness of being. You would not be recognized as the token on that game. You'd be the player outside of that. Okay, so same in legal land out there. This is what they've got jurisdiction over, but because you've attached it to yourself, now we got sameness of being, you and this are one and the same, sameness of being of Ontario, of Canada, belong to the game now. You're owned by the game, controlled and regulated by the rules of the game. We did it to ourselves. It's called free will. But the main point I want to stipulate here is that it's the token on the game that is subject to the rules of the game, not the players. So out there, the men and the women are the players, and this is the token being moved around in the game of commerce and legal land, whatever, financial institutions, banking, whatever. This is the identity named on all of those accounts out there, all those charges, all those records, blah, 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 blah. So the objective, of course, with the Recision stuff is to get back to, no, I'm just the player moving the token. I'm in control. You see, I'm in control of, I'm not the token. I'm in control of the token. And yes, the token has to abide by the rules of the game. I don't, but the token does. I don't, but this does. Just work with me. So in that sense, we are in control because you get to decide, well, do I want that home or that car or this car or those shoes, or do I want to do this? Do I want to do that? You are in control of the token. But as long as you appear to be the token, then you're being controlled as if you're the token. You're subject to laws, rules, regulations, and that's where the government gets jurisdiction over your physical being. But the truth is, they only have jurisdiction over this, and people don't know how to properly rebut the presumption that you're this. And we did it to ourselves. You're on you move the token on the board like a shoe, and you dip into your pocket and start paying the bills. You see, so now you're starting to act like the debtor. Now you're starting to act like the token on the board that's subject to the liabilities, not the player, the token, the token. So for all intents and purposes, you all met my friend before. So when you're out there in the game of commerce, you're like this. This is what they're moving around. This is what they're controlling. This is what they're regulating. This is what the government has jurisdiction over. And you go for the ride because you've said that's me, and you've played the part. You've acted like the debtor. You've gone into court to defend. You paid the fines. So, but you're not the token. You're not the legal identity. When I say legal identity and token, for purposes of this video, it's one and the same. Legal identity and token on the Monopoly game is one and the same. So the only thing you have to do then is sever the concept that you are the token on the board, that you are the legal identity. And that is so simple to do. It's unbelievable. And people just don't seem to grasp it. I don't understand why. Many have and used it very effectively, but many more just don't seem, something hasn't gone cha-ching yet. I get the indoctrination of programming, so on and so forth, but this is really is simple. It's not complex. So hopefully when you see the Monopoly game analogy here, that you can say, okay, I'm starting to get it now. It's the token on the board that is subject to the laws, rules, regulations, absolutely, but not the player. If you want to play the game, then you got to make sure that the token plays by the rules. Not you, the token. And yep, we were sitting around the game. You decide you might land on Park Place and say, well, yeah, we'd like to purchase. My token would like to purchase Park Place. Then the token's got to dip into its bank account, to pay the price. That's where it's going to get a little bit dicey here, because the bank account we're talking about here is actually the trust. And remember that the token is birthed. This is the mother. This is the foundation security. This is the ultimate security right here. And in my case, it's held by the province of Ontario. So there's your trustees, because they hold this. That's where the liability is. But the liability passed to us, men and women, because we claim to be the token. Now, if you're not the token, and somebody's got to be responsible for the token, somebody's got to pay the bills, but the player doesn't have to, and the token can't do it in and of itself. So who has to do that? Well, the estate. This is the security. The government's not responsible for the debts. The estate, the security, is responsible for the debts. The trustee's job is to make sure that the debts are settled. The trustees are liable for default or fraud. Not the token, not the player. In this case, the trustees. So we basically took on their liability, their responsibility. Let me say that we took on their responsibility, take care of all of that stuff. We said, this is me, and started to play the part. So all we got to do, and I've shared in all these Recision videos, it's not complicated. We got lots of good stuff in our Zoom meetings on this and our information packages, which the link to our blog is down here. If you want to get more information on that, just click on the link to our blog down there. Go to our blog, read that, click on the Contact Us button, and request more information. I'll send it to you, and you do what you want with it from there. So when the player wakes up and realizes he's not the token on the board, and does what has to be done to separate himself so everybody else out there knows that he's not the token on the board, now you're free. You are free. You always were free. You just didn't believe it or weren't acting the part. It's the token that they have jurisdiction over. It's the token that the laws, rules, and the regulations pertain to. Not the player. Not the one who's in control, who decides that do we want to purchase, does my token want to purchase Park Place or not? Yes or no? Does my token want to purchase the railroad? Yes or no? So you're in control, all right. Control everything, own nothing, control everything, right? Well, this is what I'm talking about. So take that little Monopoly game metaphor, analogy, and take it out into the real world. It's the same thing. Fiction? Fiction. Reality. Physical being, physical identity. Legal being, legal identity. It's like trying to mix oil and water when you bring the two together. Can't be done. Gets a little messy. And your registration of birth is the mother of all debtors. It's the foundation security. It's the surety, the ultimate security. And the government's, the province, my case, province of Ontario has it. They hold it. So you could call this the title. And you call this the birth certificate / token, the certificate of the title. And the certificate of the title is not the title. So this is not ownership. This is, and it's in the trust, and the trustees are responsible to perform for this. But as long as you claim to be this and keep doing their job, then you're going to keep doing their job. So clearly, an objective is to debond yourself, detach yourself, debond yourself from the attachment to this, like this is your identity. It's not your identity. It's a fictional identity. It's a legal identity. You and the token, there's no sameness of being between the player and the token on the board, for heaven's sakes, but yet somewhere along the way, the player started to think and act like the token. Now it's sameness of being, you get it? And again, that's the token that's subject to the laws, rules, and regulations of the game and all that goes on there. The player's in control, or ought to be. And a little side note here, and like the game of Monopoly, eventually it comes to an end, and you're kind of witnessing that out there in the world right now. This rebirth of the financial system back in the 30s, it slowly but surely seems to be coming to an end, because it can only play that game that way for so long, and eventually it just has to stop, and something else is birthed out of it, or whatever. Every new beginning starts with some other beginning's end. Kansas. I'm talking about the band, Kansas. Interesting how that's also in Wizard of Oz. So right there, all the laws, rules, regulations of the provinces, the states, the countries, the Fed, so on and so forth. That's the rules of the game. Those rules apply to the token, not the player who's in control. So the player who has attached this, bonded this identity to himself through ignorance, whatever, if he wants to be free from that, he's got to deal with this, what he did, and go right back to the beginning. This is the beginning. This is where it started for us when we, speaking for myself, in 1974, I presented this as evidence of my identity when I got a driver's license and signed. I certified this is, I'm the individual named above. Same on social insurance, 1974. And then I acted the part. More importantly, I acted the part. I got a speeding ticket. I went to court to fight it, or I paid it. Doing that instead of pointing out, whoa, I'm not. This is not me. I'm not a legal identity. This is not evidence of my identity. You got any charges here? I don't, quite frankly, I don't care what they're going to do, but they can't stick it to me. But ultimately, this is where it's got to go. Whoever holds this, this is where they got to send the charges. But we all volunteered there to, to step up to the plate, believing that's us, that legal identity is that, not even knowing that's a legal identity probably, and took on that legal identity, and now we're paying the bills for the legal identities for the legal identity, and all the government's doing is playing is following along with our choice. Nobody put a gun to our head and said you have to do this. As I shared in previous videos, there's no law, rule, regulation anywhere that says this is evidence your identity, or driver's license is evidence your identity. None of those government issued identity documents or identity documents is evidence of your identity. No banking document is evidence of your identity. It's not there. So that's all we got to deal with to be free of the rules of that game, as if they apply to you and me. Well, the laws of life apply to you and me, no doubt about it. I get the no harm thing, and most people don't wake up in the morning, I'm going to go rob a bank or kill somebody today. No. Besides, all the laws, rules, regulations of the game, it's all to do with commerce. It's all to do with money. It has nothing to do with right and wrong. Oh yeah, they played the game. They used it, right and wrong, to get people feeling guilty. I did something wrong, so I should pay the fine. I should, go to jail to pay my debt to society. To agree with that nonsense, but no, it's all commercial. It's all about money. So I guess maybe the first thing for some people then is to get in their head that I'm not the token on the board. I got to stop taking it personally. So when my token gets charged, I get upset. When my token's got to pay a fine, I get upset. It's the token, not me. Why would I get upset? And like I said, furthermore, when you understand what I'm saying here, whoever holds this, if there's any charging going on, they should be directed here. And you can use this document here to establish that, which is also not evidence of your identity. It tells you who's holding the security. It's right there, for heaven's sakes. It doesn't say we're holding the security. You need to know that this is the mother of this. And if you're not on the hook, because you're not the token, that something must be. That's what I say, I really don't care. They can't stick it to me. They got to go somewhere else with it or drop it. But I would rather direct them to this so they get the picture that I know what's going on here. Then they leave you alone, because it actually becomes breach of trust once they know and you know that they're actually holding the security. They're the trustees. Trustees can't be passing off to liability. You can accept it. You can volunteer to accept it, but they can't make you take on the liability. That's breach of trust. Now, some people out there claiming that a birth certificate is a bond. It is not a bond. It is a financial asset. In that, it is evidence of claim to the bearers, to the holder's interest. And this registration of live birth, which is this represents your estate, is the ultimate security. And again, in my case, province of Ontario, Canada, holds that. So it's evidence of my interest. It's not a bond. And so this is how, at the end of the day, the player, somebody on the board's got to be liable for the token, right? Doesn't have to be you. Doesn't have to be the player. It's your estate that's in trust is the security, the surety, the guarantor. Not the player, not the token. It's evidence of your interest. There's organizations out there claiming to be a sovereign nation. Well, You want to be a sovereign nation. A nation in God's kingdom means you yourself as a nation. You know, they got the nation like a group of people. That's not the one God's talking about. You, every man, woman, and child is his own nation. And every one of us is free, except we took on this identity, sameness of being. Yep, this is me. We acted the part. We played the part. We did everything like we're the token on the board. We took on the liabilities, just like people play the game of Monopoly. They get upset when things go sideways, like it's got something to do with them. See the mental state here? So we have the tools to liberate ourselves from this game of Monopoly as if we are the token. We control the token. We're not the token. You have a token. You have it. You decide what you're going to do out there in the business world, in the world of commerce, out there in the game of life, whatever you want to call it. Legal land. All those laws, rules, regulations apply to the token. The player is not the token. And all of our Recision videos and our Zoom meetings on the subject provide people with numerous means. I shouldn't say numerous because it's real simple. 1 or 2, 3 different ways to disassociate, to separate themselves from that they are the token. To get that sameness of being, to get this off of you, detached from you. No, I control that. I'm not that, I control that. That's what these videos are, these Recision videos are about. And I truly hope that the Monopoly game analogy there, metaphor thingy, helps you out somewhat there to see what we're talking about here. So we don't have to fight to be free. We don't have to take anybody to court to be free. We are free. We just got to stop believing that we're the token and stop believing and acting as if we're the token and point out, no. This, by what authority are you identifying me by that name? We're in the legislation. Legislation does this say it's evidence of my identity? Yes, sir, but you signed over there. Yeah, so I was signing for this. I'm not the token, or I wasn't aware that it's not evidence of my identity, so I rescind my signature and all of those things. Because I can. Wasn't disclosed. Now, like on New Zealand birth certificates where it says right on the face, warning, this certificate is not evidence of the identity of the person presenting it. Warning, the person presenting this is not the token. You have jurisdiction over the token, but you don't have jurisdiction over the holder of the token, the one in control of the token. And again, this is evidence of your interest. And this is the interest we're talking about here. And this is what's in trust. And this is where the liability is. This is where the bills should be sent to. But more on that in our Zoom meetings. People just start firing stuff off thinking they know things. You have the complete picture, and you want to know it well so you can stand on your own 2 feet. See, a lot of people out there keep going to other people looking for this organization, that organization, well, they're doing this and they're doing that. Let's go see what they're doing and join with them. But it's just an evolving door of shit. I don't know what to say to it. There was a native group claiming that they're a sovereign nation. Okay. But the same sovereign nation, and I was on a Zoom meeting the other night with this people representing this, speaking for this sovereign nation, they were granted the authority to govern themselves, and they were granted that authority from the federal government. So who the heck is the sovereign here? If you're a sovereign nation, you don't go to another sovereign to be granted anything. Makes no sense. If you're a sovereign, you walk and talk like you're a sovereign. But the thing is there's only one sovereign. Not everybody's a sovereign. In God's world, God is the sovereign. Why is God the sovereign? Because he created everything. He owns everything and makes the law with respect to it. And lo and behold, in Canada owns everything. All the laws are passed in the name of the king. So the king is the owner of everything because everything in Canada is being done in the name of the king. And lo and behold, he is their sovereign. And that sovereign cannot be taken to criminal or civil court. Why? Because the sovereign is above the law. But men and women are not above the law. The laws of life apply to you and I. We didn't make ourselves. We're not self-made. So people don't understand what sovereignty is. They should do a deep dive into that before you start claiming to be a sovereign nation or that I'm a sovereign. Well, if you're a sovereign, then you're above the law. You make the law and you're above the law. You go to the website and you confirm the King of England cannot be taken to criminal or civil court because he, in their world, is the sovereign, the one. In God's kingdom, God is the sovereign one. The rest of us are subject to the laws of God, or if you're the token, then you're subject to the laws of Canada and provinces, blah, 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 blah. And in that realm, the king is the lawmaker. In God's world, it says right in the Bible, and the God is our lawgiver. It also says in there almost 100 times, this is the book of the law. It doesn't say anything about, it's nothing to do with religion. The Bible is the book of the law. It says that 100 times just about. Why is it the book of the law? Because in Genesis, God created all of this, so he owns it, so he makes the law with respect to it. In Canada, the king owns it, so he makes the law with respect to it. In God's kingdom, you got a monopoly, one sovereign. In Canada and all the Commonwealth countries, you got one sovereign, the king. No multiple sovereigns here. The sovereigns own, and the sovereigns make the law with respect to what they own or created, whatever. And furthermore, the sovereign nation of natives, I threw a couple of things out there, and then he comes back with, well, but then you won't have a driver's license. You'd be in trouble you'd be in trouble for not having a driver's license. Well, just a second. If you're a sovereign nation, what do you care about their requirement to have a driver's license? You see, so there's a little confusion in the mind going on here. I get what they're trying to do. I understand that. But from my perspective, they're confused. They're confused. If you're a sovereign nation, you don't abide by the rules of some other sovereign. That's ridiculous. If you're abiding by the rules of some other sovereign, then you're not the sovereign. That is the sovereign. Simple as that. And God bless the people. I know what they're trying to do. And one of the speakers, the same guy, was in the court recently and kept talking to the judge. Remember, the judge in the bench in the Canadian court is like the king. He's not the king, but he's just sitting as if the king. He's representing the king. He's representing the sovereign on that bench. This guy claiming that they got their sovereign, their sovereign nation and all this sort of stuff, kept referring to the king as, yes, your worship, yes, your worship. So who's the king here? Who's the sovereign here? If you're bowing to them, you're subject to their law. Simple as that. And if the government of Canada can grant the right to govern yourselves, they can take it away. It's the wrong way of looking at it, completely, from my perspective. I digress, a little off topic there, but it just perturbs me sometimes, but I understand what they're trying to do. So anyway, back to the Monopoly game thing. Yep, the player is not the token. But out there in the game of life, this is the token, but the player started to identify himself as this, so the player is now the token, and the player is being moved by the rules of the game as if he's part of the game. When in fact the player is one sitting around the table that's got nothing to do with the game other than he's in control of the token that is playing the game. So that's what all this Recision stuff is about, is to get the concept that you're the token on the board, to sever that concept. No, that's not me. That's what this Recision stuff is about. To free yourself from the concept that you're the token on the board that's controlled and regulated from birth to death. That you're the debtor, that you're the taxpayer, that you're liable for this, that you're liable for that. No. The liability, the estate is liable and the trustees have the duty to take care of it. The trustees are liable for default or fraud. Breach of trust. But sure, before anyone having dealings with the estate, the trustee, is to look to the estate that the trustee's holding for the ultimate security. That's why the trustee is the trustee. Trustees don't dip into their own pocket, right? Here it is right here. This is the security. This is your claim to the security. Or this is your claim to the security, any way you want to look at it. This is not an identity document. You're not the token, but again, you've identified yourself with this. Sameness of being kicks in. You're the token now. Put it that way. Being moved by the laws, rules, regulations of this King Charles. All the laws are passed in his name. In Canada, he's the sovereign. Someone else out there claiming that some filings have been done that now all the men and women are no longer debtors or creditors based on what this other individual did. Not going to mention names here. Well, if that's true, then go to your bank. If you've seen that or aware of that, go to your bank. See, I'm a creditor now, and I'm here to exchange a financial asset for a check. See what happens. You'll get laughed out of there. I can assure you, you'll get laughed out of there. So lots of crazy stuff going on floating around the internet, and people like what they hear, so they just jump on it instead of having to do their own due diligence to save themselves. He wants to go to somebody else. So we just provide information so you can learn the information to free yourself. So you've got it within yourself. You're not dependent on other people, because who the heck can you trust in these days? Besides that, there is no savior. You are your savior. There's nothing I or anyone can do to free everybody on planet Earth. But each individual, each man and woman could do that to free himself. And all he's really freeing himself from is an illusion that this is you. But as long as you keep acting the part, playing the part like it is you, and following the laws, rules, and regulations that apply to the token as if they have something to do with you. I'm not talking about lawlessness here. It's got nothing to do with that. I'm talking about the reality of the situation. You can free yourself anytime. In fact, you're free. You're so free you don't even know you're so free you chose bondage. But you're still free. You're not this. I hope this helps, and I would highly recommend that the anybody watching this video go to our YouTube channel where you're here. Click on the Reclaim Your Securities icon there just below the video here. It'll take you to our page. You'll see click on the playlist and click on the Recision playlist. Just right now, I think there's 11 videos there. Start with the oldest to the newest to get things in perspective, to get the context up to this point. Understanding you're not the token on the board. You never were the token on the board. You just played the part like you're the token on the board, and there's no authority anywhere that says you are the token on the board, except you keep acting the part or believed you were, whatever. Main thing is you're acting the part. It's like a friend of mine says. It says when you go into court to fight to save your house, it's the wrong approach because it's not your house. It belongs to the token. Belongs to the trust. It's not your house, so it's the wrong way. I get what the people do that, but it's the wrong way to approach the situation. That's when my friend walks in and says, "Good morning, your owner," meaning trustee. Love you. God bless. Want information about our information package? There's a link under this video here. It takes us to restorethekingdomofgod.blogspot.com. Read the information there. There's a contact us button. If you want more information, click on the contact us button, send us an email to request more information, and you'll receive that information via email, and we respond to all requests. So if you don't see an answer, check your spam or junk box. We reply to all of them that we get. And sometimes an email bounces back because people don't put their email in there properly. And then, of course, we can't communicate to you because we don't know what your email address is. And sometimes I kind of figure it out and fix it. Think about a dot in the wrong spot or something. But otherwise, that's how we go. So love you. God bless. I believe I'm done. Hopefully I'm done. And we'll talk to you later. God bless. Love you. You're in control. You can be in control. You are in control. One way or another, you're in control. You decide. You have free will. I just got an email from someone who commented on a comment I had put on a comment of a video on YouTube. And this has nothing to do with the rescission aspect of it. Just for the record here, the rescission thing is far, far simpler than filing liens, which is what I'm going to talk about here in a moment. Far, far simpler. Accomplish the same thing basically without a lot of study work, required study work. Anyhow, there's an individual out there somewhere on the planet that name starts with a G that recently, last week and a half or so, put out a big email blast, looked really good about UCC filing and blah, 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 blah. It would look really official, really professional, look really good and meaty, to save everybody via UCC filing. Well, I'm going to read you a comment here. The proof that if you don't do your own studies, especially when you're getting into registering security interests, you're probably wasting your time. And I've said 1,000 times, if not more, paperwork without the understanding is a waste of time. Now, putting your trust in someone else is not understanding. That's just copying what someone else did. Doing your due diligence and seeing for yourself, that's where you get the understanding. Now, here's the email. It's from Ranger blah, blah, blah 6006. Geez, UCC1 got voided out for some reason. I looked up the term and how it is used, and the AI said that they are voided for a lack of permission on the part of the debtor. So here's some UCC filings being promoted and pushed, and people probably jumping on board, but in there, the debtor didn't consent or agree. And anyone that knows anything about registered security interest, and it's in our security agreement and the reclaiming securities aspect of it, specifically, the debtor consents and agrees to the registration of the lien filing in the commercial registry as a requirement of the code. If it's not there, the filing is void. It's invalid. It's bogus. It's worthless. So clearly, G does not know what G's doing when it comes to UCC stuff. And this is why you people, and I would implore you to do your own studies. This is why in your information package, we provide the study information. We tell you where to look so you can see it for yourself, so you know the truth of it, or when somebody's telling you stories. Without that, it's like going fishing with a net that's full of holes. You're not going to catch anything. You're not going to get anywhere. You're going to be throwing snowballs at the wall. I fell in, when I first got on this path over 20 years ago, I did the same thing. I jump on board with stuff I read on the internet or somebody sent me and, oh, this sounds really good, and did it. But I didn't do any study work. I just trusted that it was all complete, right? But then one after another, the dominoes fell and it was all just a waste of time. Well, not really, because I learned from that. Okay, I got to do my own studies. I got to, much as I hate to do that, as much as I don't want to read this, I have to read it to know. Otherwise, I don't know. I'm putting my trust and faith in someone else that they know. And in the end, most of the time, well, all the time, I would say, they didn't know. Sounded really good, though. So this is why in our information package, we provide you information. That's what we call it, an info pack, not a do this pack. And we stipulate no rush jobs because you've got to do the due diligence. You want to see for yourself, to have it within yourself, the truth of the matter and the accuracy required so that you are accurate with what you're doing. Just saying. Here's an example right here. And there's a couple of other comments I commented to, same thing. Voided. Well, it's not done properly. And anyhow, I'll leave it at that. You really want to do your due diligence so you know the truth. So you know when you're doing something, it's accurate. It's by the rules, so they can't void it for this or that reason. As long as it's done by the rules, it's legit. It's recognized in the system. And that's going to require some due diligence on your part. Love you. God bless. Ciao for now.